Hello, everyone. Hey, Miss Dillard, thanks for coming on today. Hey, everybody, with the Free Press of February 2026, February 14th. St. Valentine's Day, they say it. Um, it's a series we do in this month, which is the shortest month, which has the longest history of struggle, is Black World Month. At least the Free Press now, it has sort of an annual tradition in the Salons and other articles. And we encourage people to write articles about this particular issue, not just in February, but all the time of Black liberation and other aspects of this. But we're welcoming tonight is Tom Dillard, whenever I'm in his presence, I have to hear him saying how great my father and my family has been. And so I want to return the favor tonight and saying how important he has been in my life and understanding some of the history of what Columbus is and the work that people have done over the years and his connection to it and my understanding from it, it's been very profound from my understanding as a grown person. So I've appreciated him for, as long as I've been around. I mean, he's a little older than me. So Mr. Dillard, if you want to just jump right into it, are we set up, Steve, with PowerPoint? We were going to ask which one we were going to go with Vanguard first and then Core
Right,
second, correct?
right,
Okay.
right. Good
Um,
deal.
And then Steve, you're set ready. I'm thinking, right? We're talking about, yes, he's upstate. So if you're ready to go ahead, or if we want to do any announcements first, Suzanne, but this is the February 14th, 2026, Columbus Free Press Salon, where we're focusing on the historical recollection of two major movements in Columbus um, for civil rights, human rights, just humanity in general. Um, Vanguard League, and then which is more national, is the Core. Core was very strong in Columbus for a sustainable time. And so
Hmm.
Mr. Dill is going to express all that. So if we're ready to go, no announcements, or we can do those later. I'm not, let's see, let me check the chat real quick. Oh, wait. Yeah, we all do. Okay. Let's go with this. Okay, Mr. Dillard, thank you again. Uh, I know you're going to be able to tell exactly how it's got to be. So you do your thing. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, Josh's going to give me the cover page for the Vanguard League, the PowerPoint, and then we're going to work through those. He's going to put them up, and I'll talk through each page.
All right.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, we're loving this.
Looking good. There it is.
Yes.
He's going to tighten that up from there. It is. Great. I guess I'm ready to start. Again, my name is, if you can see me, yeah, I am. My name is Tom Dillard, and as Mark was saying, he asked me to do this project, and I got into it and got excited about it, and this is going to get somebody in trouble. So, so this is one of the objections he wanted to do, is to raise a stink about this. And I come to this in honor of a couple of people, several people. Number one, my mother, and her sister was Constance Nichols. I called her Aunt Jean. And also the grandfather. These people are out of Marietta, Ohio, and had and brought to Columbus an attitude. Aunt Jean graduated from OSU in 32 with honors in business, and just get up and go kind of people. And I do that and honor them. And also, as Mark was saying, with respect to his mother and his father, and the participation they had in the whole civil rights movement here in Columbus. I always tell Mark that his dad was the only white guy that usually showed up. and but he showed up well. But he showed up consistent. He was a man of beliefs. So what we're going to do is the other thing I want to share with you. I'm a witness more than a historian. So I have stories to tell, things that I've seen and done, and half of them are true. And but you figure out which ones are and which ones aren't. And we've had enough practice of doing that on TV, right? During these current times, with all the lies we get, can't figure out who's telling what. But anyway, I try to keep you straight in terms of what I'm telling. So let's do the Vanguard League. We're going to do this first. And if you if you can change the page, I'll talk about a couple of key pieces. Hit me. There you go. That looks good. The whole Vanguard League piece started in 1940, and really its mission was to begin to address some of the issues that are going on in the community. Let me point out parenthetically, if this sounds familiar to you, it's not a coincidence, because there's issues today, there's issues there. They and so that was that side of the thing that they were doing. It's rooted. The organization was rooted in the community. They came up with strategies to address some of the issues, but they really were concerned about all aspects of discrimination in all facets of life. And some people want to take that now and apply it to justice. So they want to apply justice to all situations in the life. Let's turn the page. As in the past, the area of focus of society that they worked on was public accommodations, employment barriers. Sounds like DEI, doesn't it? Huh? Housing segregation. How about redlining? Huh? Sounds like it good. And how about educational inequity? And they're talking about that. So those are the kind of things that folks were focusing on then. And if it sounds familiar to like today, then that's kind of like what we're focusing on today. Let's take the next page and see how that happens. Next page, please. Good. Now, as in the past, a couple of people got together, like you guys are doing now and have been doing. People have gotten together on Taylor Avenue at Constance Nichols' house and started talking about what are the things we need to do about these situations we're facing. Now, like in the day, like today, everybody's got a conversation about it. It's on social media, it's this and that and other, but ain't nobody sitting down and putting pencil to paper. And so that was part of the founding movement. People sitting down at Aunt Jean's house, frustrated with the discrimination that's going on, frustrated with the injustice that is going on. They sat down and said, you know what, we need to do something about this. And that's how the organization started. And ain't that the truth about all organizations in terms of how they started? A couple of people sit down and say, hey, man, we need to do something about this. This is going on. And so that was part of the piece they started with, and kind of gives you a feel for it. Page, please. The organizers, and let me be clear about this. There was a lot of people involved in this. They were in it and out of it. You know what I mean? They would kind of join the organization, do some work on it, and then, fade out. Or there's a particular thing that kind of ticked them off. They wanted to get organized around that. You know what I mean? We want to protest around that. But I ain't concerned about the other thing. So, it's kind of situational in that sense. But but both Constance Curtis Nichols, who I call Aunt Jean, and Frank Shear were the two principal people in it. And let me give you a story that goes with that. Aunt Jean was very fair skinned, as we Negroes say, very fair skinned, and so she was she could pass for white. And downtown, the theater downtown was owned by the Neff organization, wouldn't allow black folks into the theater, and the theater still stands today. And when they're in there, so what Aunt Jean did, she went down and bought a ticket for two people and they got the ticket, and then she got her buddy Frank Shear, who was what we call in the neighborhood one of the darker brothers, and she and Frank, Attorney Shear, tried to go into the theater, and the man came out and said, "You can't do that. You can't bring colored people in here." And Aunt Jean and Frank said, "Well, you need to call the police." So they called the police, and the police came, and Aunt Jean told him, or Frank Shear told him, I forget which one, told him, said, "Look, there's a new law in town which is called for public accommodation, and with that law in place, you can't deny us entrance." So they were able to get interest into the theater and watch the movie. That was part of it. Page, please. I'm gonna give you some more stories with this. So as you can see here, do I have control of this thing? I don't know. Let me see. Yeah, I got the pointer. As you can see here, we talked about in the theater, right? In terms of being able to get into the theater and other places. Let me tell you the other trick they pulled. This guy Neff pulled. Now he owned all the theaters here in town, and even owned the Lincoln Theater on the East Side. And what he told black folks was, "Look, you don't have to go downtown to the white theater. You got your own theater." This was separate but equal, right? "And y'all can go to that theater. So why don't you go to the Lincoln Theater?" And I'm paraphrasing here, and it will leave us white folks alone downtown. And Aunt Jean and Frank Shear, them guys ended up protesting people going into the Lincoln Theater, and that was that was a big deal. I mean, they would let people go in the thing. Amina Robinson, y'all know Amina Robinson. One of her famous paintings is a picture of Aunt Jean and some folks protesting in front of the Lincoln Theater on Long Street. It used to hang in Mayor's Coleman's office. That was one of his favorite pictures. I don't know where it went. I'm gonna make a note and find that and maybe include as part of this thing. The other place where they focused their attention was housing restrictions. Believe it or not, there were certain places black folks could not live in the city of Columbus back in the 30s and 40s, or even back before that. And what it was called redlining. Let me give you another story with that one. Taylor Avenue was a barrier. In other words, in the 40s, black folks couldn't live on the other side of Taylor Avenue, on the east side of Taylor Avenue. You could only stay on the west side, and you had to be out of the white folks' neighborhood by sundown. So you could go in there and work and do all that, but then you had to be out of there. And so that's how that worked. But here's an interesting story with that one. There's a guy named Colston, family named Colston, and they found a house on the east side of Taylor Avenue on Menlo Street and said they wanted to buy the house. And the folks said, "Well, no, you can't move over here. You can't buy a house over here." So they went to the bank, and the bank said, "We're going to loan you money to move over here. We won't do that." So interesting enough, Stansbury, I don't know if you remember, he was a Quaker attorney. His name was Robinson. And Attorney Robinson took Mr. Colson up to Sunbury, Ohio, to a small bank there, and there he got the money to buy the house. And so he bought the house, and this was early 50s. And that started what I call the white flight. All the white folks started moving out of the east side, near east side, and fleeing to I don't know, Reynoldsburg or where the suburbs were, fluid and stuff. And we had moved on the street. We on Clifton Avenue is where I grew up. We moved there in, I don't know, 1955, something like that. But anyway, next door to us lived a minister. He was minister of Asbury Methodist Church Mark, down there on the corner of Clifton and Parkwood, and so Mama's in the kitchen one day, and
Asbury North. Asbury North. Yeah.
there you go, Asbury North. Thank you. I didn't see. That's right. And so, so you see, I'm telling the truth. I documented it. So what happened was, Mark. So Mom's in the kitchen one day, and little Billy, who was attorney Pastor Bob's son, came in and said, Mrs. Dillard, we're moving. We're moving. And Mom said, well, why are you moving, Billy? And she said, because the niggers is moving in. Mom said, really? We were shocked. I'll never forget that story. Well, hey. He was right. We were moving in, and the whole street turned. But let me tell you the most interesting thing, though. There's a couple of things happening here. I'm watching the clock. I'm doing good. A couple of things here. The people that moved in were the leaders in the Black community. These are people that could not have bought a house on the east side of Taylor Avenue, started moving in. And let me give you some of the names. One was, how about Senator Bowen, who became the first Black senator, right? And the state legislature, moved into on Menlo. I don't have all the names now, but some of the guys that moved in had been members of the Red Tail Tuskegee Airmen, because Tuskegee Airmen were stationed out of Lockburn, right? That's where they all went. But then to buy houses, they started buying houses on the east side. And so one of them I remember that lived right next door to me on Clifton Avenue was Reverend Quick of Bethany Presbyterian Church. He was the pastor there, and he also became head of the local NAACP. But all these heroes and sheroes from past started moving in this community. And I think that's one of the things that began to happen with respect to the formation of the Vanguard League and some of the other kind of things. So that was the piece. The other thing that I think is very vitally important, let me tell you something. Vitally is this whole thing around right here about the enforcement or employment barriers and enforcement gap. Let me tell you something about employment. Remember Truman signed an executive order that allows people to in the military establishment to hire Black folk, right? For the first time. And what they did, they went to what opened up was the depot. Y'all remember the depot, right? On Broad Street. And how about Curtis Wright? I'm back. The airplane factory. This is DSW now, but that opened up, and Black folks for the first time could buy houses there, or could earn a living, and they were able to buy houses for the first time on the east side. Eastgate, you all hear me? East opened up. East side opened up. Berwick opened up. And folks for the first time could buy houses there, because you understand they were restricted from buying houses before. They couldn't do it. They wouldn't sell it to you. It had a covenant on it. And my old housing papers, I had a copy of that covenant on it. It said no Black folks or Jews and all anybody else that they didn't like couldn't do it. So anywho, that was that was absolutely key. So sometimes people don't think working on policy makes a difference. Believe me, it makes all the difference in the world. The change of that policy changed people's lives. And let me tell you right here and now, I'm a product of my dad going to Curtis, being a window washer, okay, being a window washer for Columbus Window Washing Company, and they're still in business, versus being a machinist at Curtis Wright. Made all the difference. Made all the difference in the world. All the difference in the world. So policy makes a difference. The other one I want to hit on is education segregation. And we fought this for a long time. I mean, we were in that. They fought for that. I mean, that's been a battle. It still is to a large extent in terms of being able to go to the different schools. So those are the areas and stuff that they fought on to get things to them. And people still fight on that. I'm out of breath on that one. Let's try another page. All right. Here's the pieces they used. I thought this was great. This sounds just like my aunt. You know, she graduated a BA with a BA in accounting at Ohio State University in 32, the only woman and only black woman in her class. OSU, right? Afraid of DEI, huh? Right? Give me a break. Anyway, we're going on. They did legal action, and that's where Frank Shear came in. And let me tell you, there was a member of the group, a person named Bill Brooks, who ended up becoming a judge, Judge Brooks. He was a member of an attorney and was a member of the Vanguard League and handled a lot of the legal kind of situations to do that. And the other was Frank Shear, and the other was a guy named Bobby Durham, who was a friend, Mark, of your dad. I think they were kind of, I don't know what they did together, but I know they're on the same page in terms of working for social justice, and that's a key thing. And Mark, do we have your dad's stuff up in OHC, Ohio Historical Connection? Because it should be there. We should put it there either at the library. Somebody should know that story.
Somebody needs to be a librarian to be able to figure that one out. It's all over the place. Yeah,
I know. It may be good to teach some other ministers how to get it done. So, So anyway, going on. They also use direct action. Okay, picket lines and stuff. And that was always a fun piece. And Gene used to drag me to the picket lines. I got another story for that under core in terms of doing it. But public pressure, this is the interesting thing with the Vanguard League. These people will confront folks. They wouldn't do a thing where, I love it, they wouldn't go to AI and make them look like a monkey, you know what I mean, and do that kind of thing. What they would do, they would go and confront the particular people and say to them, this is what needs to happen, this is what needs to change. And so that's a thing that's not happening very much now in terms of confrontation. They built some coalitions with other folks and did interactive learning. So those are the pieces that they did. That was their kind of strategy, their action plan, their action things to do. Now, let me give you a point here. When's the last? Well, we had a good. We had a good. Mark and I were talking about, or maybe Suzanne and I were about the whole thing about ICE, where we saw some of the people doing direct action, standing up, doing some picketing, standing in front of folk and confronting that. And so I think that's still there, and it's still a good thing to do. I'm on the next page, please. We did that. That's the movies and stuff. They were able to get stuff done. They were able to get laws changed and things put in place. Go from there. Hold on. Good. Next page, please. I ain't bad. Okay. I ain't doing too bad. I ain't out of breath yet, so should we do? The whole labor, the, the whole labor thing, but let me back up. The whole labor thing is essential. One place I think is either this one or it's in the next one. One place that they confronted was, no, that's in the next one. What the reason I'm kind of saying that, folks, because the effort of the Vanguard League turned into CORE. A lot of those pins with the Congress of Racial Equality. So some of the action they take, I get kind of mixed up. But the Vanguard League put all those kind of pieces together, and And that whole kind of labor and racial barrier kind of stuff is key. Because what I was going to tell you is the Vanguard League people also confronted people like Patel Memorial Institute, the the chemical people up on Olentangy had a big event, but they confronted a lot of folks around those kind of issues. Let's see, unfinished business. But, all right, okay, next page. Good. I'm just about a half an hour. Good. Labor, we talked about that, the defense boom in terms of all how that thing worked and how people got into it, the initiative, and how they framed. They did a lot. The attorneys did a lot of work on fair employment law and fair employment kind of programs to get things done. That's in place today. And hold on. Hold on. Oh, okay. Next page, I'm gonna take you to the summary and go and then go, and if okay, Mark, then go to core. Next page, please. Yep, changing landscape. Yeah, strategic integration. Yeah, tactics. A lot of what they did. I have another chart, and I didn't include it. But what it shows the things that the Vanguard League was doing in Columbus and the things that were happening around the country, and they mirror each other. So although there may not have been a Vanguard League in Chicago or Cincinnati or Cleveland, a thing named Vanguard League, what there would be there is an organization, a group that was addressing those same kind of issues. So across the country, those issues were being issues of employment and education and justice were all being addressed across throughout the thing. So they were part of that overall movement. Next page, please. What's a little summary here? That's right. Yeah, what we're saying here is that the efforts moved on to CORE and some other organizations, and I think so. Hold on. Next page, please. Yeah, there it is. See, Columbus events, Vanguard, huh? Vanguard League, founded by Constance Nichols. We were doing that here in the 40s. Philip Randolph was doing his national speech. You can, well, let me just a little printer. You can see it, huh? Right. So different issue 41, 42. Vanguard League secures jobs for Black women. Curtis Wright Platt. CORE did an educational thing across the country. See how? So a lot of the things that were happening in Columbus were mirrored here in across the next country. Next one, please. I hope it's there. There it is. There's 40. Founded, right? Vanguard League was founded in the 40s. 41, they worked on discrimination in theaters and stuff. 42, 44, wartime employment gains. Late 40s, focused on systematic barriers for discrimination, integration with CORE, ongoing legal stuff, statewide organizations. Give you another little piece with that kind of history. My sister Martha was a friend of Mark's and a friend of Mark's mom and dad, was in Vanguard, was not in Vanguard League, but was in CORE, which then became the Black political, then became OSU Extension Study Black Studies, which was also then part of the Black political movement with Yolanda Robinson and those folks. And so she's been in that movement all the way from the start till where she is. Let me stop here and see if you have any questions or comments so far before we go on to CORE.
No, this is great. Thank you, Mr. Dillard. Yeah, anybody, I've seen some people excited about hearing Bob wants to raise his hand. Bob Ram has raised his, and we're going to get him in, make sure, can you get muted for sure? But Tom, again, your reflection, your firsthand reflection is very powerful for people. They're very excited to hear your historical recollection of the last long time.
Mhm.
Long time, but since the 40s, 1940s. We're coming up on the next 1940s, so I'd be interested in hearing a dialogue on where do you think we'll be in the 40s, the next 40s.
Yeah.
That'd be a whole other discussion, but Bob wants to talk. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, Tom, I'd known Stanley Robinson. As soon as I heard the name Stanley, I was expecting the word Robinson, and I know the story. However, I'm friends with his daughter, and been a book published about Stanley. I thought
Really?
the only event I'm aware of is 2166 Indianola Avenue. I heard nothing about something on Taylor Avenue until tonight.
Yeah, it was on Menlo. The house still stands.
Okay.
And it's on Menlo. It's right on the corner of Menlo and Taylor Avenue.
Yeah, this was just, hearsay when I was, hanging around the Quaker meeting. I heard about this property up around Northwood and Indianola, and I had no idea that there was any other part of town involved. I'm glad to hear about that.
Yeah.
And I'm friends with Stanley's daughter, who is living near Henderson and High. And there's been a book called Tipping the Scale, I believe, about Stanley's work.
I'm writing it down. Hold on. Tipping the Scale.
Yeah.
Wow. The more we talk, the more we learn, huh?
If you do a Google search, you'll find
I will.
Clintonville Historical Society. That's a made-up name, but it's something like that. And there's a whole page about this particular event on Indianola that I didn't know anything else. So I'm glad to.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I know he was something. He and his don't want to take this too far. My mother, after my father passed, had some very difficult times, and the Robinsons and all the rest. We were, believe it or not, Mark, we were Quakers for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Up at the church, up on campus,
mm-hmm.
and good people. They took care. They helped my mother transition through a very difficult time, and I've always been appreciative of that. And yes, yeah.
I thought I recognized your name, and I think I heard it during discussion of Quaker history.
That's right. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? Huh?
Yeah.
And they didn't fire a shot, did they?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, didn't fire a shot, and infecting lives all over the place. It's amazing.
So let's do the connection between Quakerism, and you skimmed on tactics a little bit about what Vanguard League and then Core. Core was a little bit, I think, more aggressive than Vanguard League, and versus the tactic, the how people appealed for change over the years. So how do you conflate that into your experience as being Quaker to where you are as a person now, moving forward as that. Yeah. And then again, start visioning where not just 1940s, we started with this reflection, but where we're going with the 2040s. I don't know if the three of us will be around, but hey, I don't know.
I think, let me put it to you this way, my thought anyway. I think those monks were a comet in the sky. Those monks were a comet. It's like seeing a comet in the sky for the first time and said, my God, because a comet's a message.
Mm-hmm.
Huh? Both in real and in biblical sense, comet is a message. You see a comet, folks say, whoa, a comet, let me put this, for me, a comet is a sign. Those monks were a sign for me. I couldn't help but having that feeling as they kind of walked through. And if that isn't in line with that whole kind of, how do I say, if that doesn't bring out some of the meanness that's in this country, right? It's amazing how that, I just thought it was absolutely spiritual event.
You're speaking of the peace walk that just happened.
Yeah.
That always, that's why That's why our email has always been walk, because I'm a firm believer of the direct contact with the earth, and walking has a very, very strong, I mean, it came from what the Poor People's Campaign or the Repairs of the Breach is doing right this week down in the south of the country. So historical, yeah, I'm just so happy that you're able to have collected this and are excited to spread it even more, and people have already offered, you know, additions and helpful linkages and all the other stuff. So I think this presentation will just get even better and better, as I'm just appreciative that you put it together for this salon. So thank you. Anyone have any comments? Bob, again, that was a great connection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Do you want to look at the next slide, the core slideshow?
Oh,
Yeah,
core. Yeah, core.
core. Yes, yes.
Do we want
Please.
to that we everybody, that will be probably another 20 minutes.
Yep.
Maybe push through. I think people, I don't know where we are. I think people are very interested in this historical reflection. Let's start it and see where we're at. That'd be great.
Yeah. Let's start the walk. Huh? Right.
Let's do.
Here we go. Yeah. Page on S core, huh? Next page, please. Let me point out to you, in terms of founding philosophy, that they trace it back to not only Gandhi, but some of the stuff I was reading said they trace the nonviolent aspect of core back to the Quakers, and they talked about that, and so that's part of that whole kind of movement. Next page, please. And some of the key people in core at that time, one was called Marlene Wilson. She was a powerhouse here in Columbus and ended up becoming the national secretary of core. Jerry Zeller. Did you know Jerry, Mark? Jerry Zeller. He was an organizer, recruiter.
Yes, but I was fairly young, but I remember being in his presence. Yes.
Okay. Very much an organizer, getting stuff done. Ended up working for Kamako as one of their leading people in Kamako. Interesting enough, his wife is still around. I called her and told her we're doing the thing on core, and I sent a copy to her. She's going to add to it, and she was just absolutely delighted that was happening. And then also there's Marlene. There's Marlene, brilliant woman, grew up on 2nd Avenue. She and her sisters and her dad. Anyway, these were the leaders of core, got stuff done. Next page, please. Ooh, wait a minute. Okay, I'm out of. Okay, good. Oh yeah, next page. Yeah, go. No, yeah, there it is. Training. Yeah, core did a lot of training with folks. In other words, in terms of how to deal with hostile people, etc., and doing stuff. You know, because you're out there picketing and stuff, and people come up to you and spit on you and threaten you and do whatever. And they trained and worked hard on that. Let me say also, parenthetically, if that's a real word, but let me say also that in Miami, Ohio, right, Mark, they did training for the Freedom Riders.
Yeah, Miami. Yeah, down in Miami University in Oxford. Down in
yeah,
Oxford. Yes.
Yeah. And trained them. So Ohio has a bit of and Cleveland too, but Ohio has a bit of a reputation, I think, with respect to this whole kind of justice issue. People keep playing us off, you know what I mean, like it's just corn and stuff. But Ohioans have been all the way down to Marietta and all that kind of stuff. Have raised Underground Railroad. That's what I'm trying to say, huh? Has really been at the forefront of that kind of stuff. They keep playing it down. It's not. Next page, please. Now, this,
Swimming pool.
this is a good one. Mark knows this story. This is a good one.
Yeah.
I'm a young man. I'm a teenager, right? And Aunt Jean and Martha, my older sister, and my mother are talking about picketing people. Now at 15, I had no idea what the hell they were talking about. You know, I was listening to James Brown and the Moonlighters, and we were having a good time. I learned how to dance and stuff. I was having a good time. They said, "Well, come on down here. We're gonna picket these people at the swimming pool." And the swimming pool was down the south end. It was called the Crystal Swimming Pool, and we're up there holding the picket. And that was the first time I had white folks come up to me and call me a nigger. And I saw myself, and they said, "And this is fun." Who said this was fun? This ain't fun. And don't you know, bless their heart, instead of integrating the pool, you know what they did? They filled it up with dirt. They filled it up with dirt and rather have black folks on it.
But not until late 70s, almost 80. So it was long in existence.
Yeah.
Long in existence, yeah.
And front that kind of stuff. Funny thing is, I'm on Facebook or something and somebody's talking about how wonderful the South End was. And I remind them about that. I remind them about the swimming pool and the picnic, right? And they blocked me from that point on. So they didn't want to talk about that. All right. Next. And the interesting thing, and the interesting thing is I wasn't really angry at them for it. You know what I mean? I mean, they were lost. It was a bunch of bullshit, but but everybody does that. Anyway, next page. Here's the good one. Next, yeah. There's Arthur Zebs, who was the head of CORE back at that point, who was and that's picketing the swimming pool that we just talked about. Reverend Zebs, he knew your dad, right, Mark? Yeah, they were kind of in the same business, and he ended up getting fired at some point, worked for Camargo, but was considered to be too radical, and got fired from Camargo, and the board, there was a big hoopla about that. I don't have all the stuff on that, but next page, please. I'll make the timer go. Okay. Yeah. Next page, please. There you go. Here are the other places they had a boycott with CORE. One was Rollerland. Rollerland was, we have to learn how to talk about it all. Yeah. Rollerland was a skating ring on Mound and 18th where black folks used to like to go to skate. Our people like to go to skate. But for black folks, there's only 2 times you could go. I think one was Sunday, and I forget what the other day was. So Aunt Jean and them drugged me over there to do that. And of course, I'm out there picketing the place. And I had been to Rollerland too, skating. You know what I mean? So it's not like, I'm part of the problem. And my buddies are saying, I see my buddies going in there, I'm explaining to them what's going on. I say, hey, man, don't go in there, man. Them people don't blah, 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 blah. And they told me, well, I don't give a damn. I only want to skate on Sunday anyway. That's what they told me. And I knocked him out. But that's a dumb knucklehead. Hey, hold on, guys. I'm 17 years old, right?
So much for Quaker.
I'm full of it. I'm full of it at 17, right? I think I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. So, and we tussled around there for a while. He went on in anyway. So, but yeah, Mark, you were saying something.
I was just saying so much for Quaker training, but
that's right.
That was early in the day. So
that's right, early in the day. That's right. Well, 17 is like 17 Quakers is different. Anyway, moving on to then we had a thing at the bus station, and then here's an interesting one. The Edwards factory. This was really interesting because what they did here was really mobilized around a community issue, which was there was a chicken processing plant there, and they would process. You already never seen one of these, I don't think. I hope not. You have Mark chicken where they bring in them chickens and pluck them, and how chickens stink. The how you ever smell a plucked? Woo. Anywho, the interest strategically, people complained about it to Core. Core organized around it and put pressure on the factory to move because it smelled so bad in the neighborhood. And parents, and unbeknownst to me, there was a chicken place, a chicken processing plant on Washington Avenue down by Aquinas School that I worked at while I was in college. And you talk about stinking. We had to get this, the chicken would come in frozen. We would take it and hang it on these racks. And Mark did not love his part. Then these ladies, right, from the South with gold teeth and knives would cut those chickens as they were on the thing. Huh? And I called each one of them ladies, yes, ma'am. All the time. Because they could do something with those knives. But it stunk to high heaven. So when I read that, it kind of reminded me of how much that place smelled.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was interesting.
That's what I was reacting to, is the stank. I didn't know about all the details because I was young.
Yeah,
I was young, but I just remember the stank. Yeah.
But the interesting thing with this particular tactic, because then it really morphs over into Camacco and model cities where people are organizing communities, huh? We're not organizing issues at this point, individual issues like employment. We're organizing communities, right, around a broad range of issues. So model cities and model cities, remember, had districts, and those districts now are seen in city council in terms of districts that the city has. So this whole kind of neighborhood movement piece, I think to an extent, it is linked back to Core working with that chicken neighborhood to bring stuff around. That's one man's opinion, but I could be wrong.
Mr. Dillard, Ms. Amber wanted to know where the pool was that you were speaking about. That was Crystal. That was South Side, Oakwood. Was it Oakwood? Just south of well, it was near Woodrow.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's your old neighborhood. Yeah, from
Yeah.
It was down there. That's right.
Yeah, I'm forgetting exactly the exact cornerstone, but it wasn't on Champion going south.
No,
It was the one over from that.
That's
Oakwood,
right.
maybe in between Oakwood and there's like a trailer park in that area now too. So they just leveled that whole thing instead of letting anybody in. They just let that over. So, but
That's
yeah,
right.
Amber, did you want any more information about that, or so?
No, that's right. That's exactly where it was. Great. Well, bad. Oh, next page. Chemical abstract. I talked about that earlier. This was a good one. Well, hold on. Let me show you some people. Here's Frank Shear, the guy that we talked about, the attorney, is there. At Chemical Abstract, they use the approach of sending a black person in to try to find a job and getting turned down, then send a white person in, right, for the job that got hired that had less skills. Okay. And that was a technique that was used in the whole kind of civil rights movement and was used by Carl White. Remember Carl White, Mark? Used to be the Housing Opportunity Center through model cities, integrating neighborhoods.
That's a whole other line. That's a whole other line of history. We can go down the model city kind of city thing. So yeah, but yeah, let's not go there tonight. But
no, we're not going there tonight. I'm saying that technique. He would use that, would send people in to apply for housing, huh? And that. And Akko Kamban worked for him, who then became the legislative aide for Jerry Hammond. And you know how Jerry Hammond had helped change the justice situation in Columbus. So it all ties together. Next slide, please. The Freedom Motorcade, I wasn't here for that. But from what I read, it was a big deal in terms of a lot of people kind of going out and marching around the whole issue. Massive turnout, a good location. Next slide, please. That's a good picture. Next slide, please. There it is. This is significant. This, of all the things that CORE did, this, in my opinion, is significant. Let me tell you why. Because they went in with a package of demands, not just one issue. It wasn't a firefight now where, you know, someone shot someone and we did this or did that. This was a total package. They're basically saying here, we want a reform. We want to reform everything that's happening on Mount Vernon Avenue, a total package. We want to talk about jobs. We want to talk about school. We want to talk about police. All these issues are all one thing. What they're really saying at this point is we want a community development program. They want the community developed. They don't. It is not now just a thing of this issue or that issue. They wanted to lift the whole community. And this was a cornerstone, and I'm not going to go there like Mark said, but this is the cornerstone of the War on Poverty movement. This was exactly the same kind of things we were talking about in the War on Poverty in terms of how to begin a job. Matter of fact, if you think about it, when the guys went down to Washington for the march with King, it was, what was it, Justice and Jobs? Remember that? Yeah. Well, that was more of a full approach, as a robust approach as opposed to just that one.
Mr. Dillard, maybe we do. I see a few questions about Camacco and some stuff. So perhaps we do need to do a parenthetical discussion about that which was going on, the other organizing that was going on outside of what CORE and other things. I mean, there was overlap,
yes,
of course, but there were differences. And so I don't know if we need to do a parenthetical because someone wanted to know more about Camacco, which sort of was that part of the anti-poverty programs that came through federal funding. And so do we want to do a quick one on that? We're running out of time. So
no,
I think that's a whole other, but Camacco is community action, community organization. It was and is been resolved into impact. There's other, so go ahead, Mr. Dillard, if you want to get into that, but I don't want to run over time too much. So
no, I'm not going to. We don't have enough time to talk all that. Let's wrap this one up.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Well, back up a second. Back up, please. Thank you. I gotta do that. And yeah, okay, right there. Good deal. We did that. Next slide, please. There you go. In terms of people kind of protesting. Next slide, please. There it is. Look at that, huh? Civil rights test, huh? Right? In terms of Freedom Motorcade, White House Conference. These are all the things CORE began to grow. Community organizing in the 60s. So CORE, to Mark's point, CORE was one of those things that began to move us towards this whole kind of anti-poverty piece. The whole focus, the treatment was in terms of, as we used to say in 67, the whole thing of Black power. I think I'm wrapping up. One more slide, please. I don't know if there is another one. No, in conclusion, out of honor and respect for the people who did all this work, let me read their names to you so that you can at least hear what their names are. I got a responsibility. Reverend Arthur Zebs was the leader. Martha Dillard was in all of that. Bobby Dorham was part of that whole kind of CORE connection. Of course, Constance Nichols. Ray Ball was NAACP. Nomo X was with CORE. Lawrence Alls was with CORE. Reverend Quick, Amos Lynch, Senator Ray Miller, Otto Beatty, Walter Cates, Bill Moss, Ben Espy, Carl Brown, Bill Davis, John Francis, Cliff Tyree, Walt Tarpley, Curtis Brooks, Ed Boston, Bobby Brown, Carl White, Reverend Hale, Les Brown, Yolanda Robinson, Jimmy Rosebarrel, Jerry Hammond, and POR, the group for policemen. I've left some people off, but those are some of the core people that participated in that helped, that had the courage to bring about the changes in this community that still need to be worked upon. And with that summary, that is my conclusion for this evening,
Man, beautiful.
Mr. Stansberry.
Mr. Dillard. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. That's sort of exactly how we wanted to. I started off thinking of last year we did Black World with Dr. Walker, Julie Lynn Walker, and two young professor PhD folk that were looking at African and Black liberation. And so these two conversations sort of parenthetically, you kept on saying, and so when you said parenthetic, I was like, I was thinking about that when we were thinking about that this is sort of like two parentheses or bookends of what has happened since February 2025 to now. Oh my God, we had perceived what the administration was going to be. Now we know it's beyond administration. It's becoming a regime, almost. It's becoming something different. So let me see. I see some people may have, but thank you again for everything that you put together. And I'd love to help, and know other people would like to help. Sort of resource that even more so, that history. I wouldn't go too far off onto the trees of or the limbs of the tree of what you were all part of always. But you have contributed, your family as well in general, have been icons and been witnesses to what's been going on in Columbus since 1940, 59, well, 59, I mean, 50s for sure, 55 when you came to town, I think, but knowing that the 40s was there, it gives me strength to know that contextually, the struggles were going on right now, they've been going on. The targets might be new, but they're the same tactics, trying to bring things down, not to build up community. And that was one of the side conversations I saw in the chat was the interest in how things happen. So I think as journalists, we are a community of journalists, and we love keeping up track with movements and historical reflections. But we do want to write and document and really, and this particular presentation tonight, I think, is the beginning of something very dynamic. And I heard you already have 2, 3, 4 other proposed presentations, and thank you for being the premier.
That's right. No popcorn, no popcorn.
Yeah, no popcorn, no popcorn. Yeah. Well, I'm sure some people have had some popcorn.
Yeah, I know. But Mark, I'm gonna do one on Model Cities and one on Kamako.
Good.
I'm gonna do one on both of those, and it's an interesting way of. Thank you for the idea, because believe me, I wouldn't have done this unless Mark said, "Hey, I was thinking, huh?" Thinking, and so I said, "Well, hey, let's see what we can do." So it's kind of opened the door for me. So thank you for that, and it's a way of kind of sharing that stuff and telling the story. Let me just say this includes: the more we talk, the better it gets, folks.
Yes.
The more we talk about it, the better it gets. I mean, things just begin to happen. It doesn't take a plan. It just takes people talking about what it needs to happen. That's how it started. That's how it always starts. It started in 1776 the same way. Guys were talking in the bar somewhere and said, "Hey, man, I ain't paying no taxes." I know the guy said, "Me either."
Tim has joined us here, Mr. Dillard. Tim Chavez has joined us here. Yeah.
Hi, Tom. Great presentation. Anxious to look at the recording we made, because the graphics was great. is really interesting. Look at the historical graphic on it. But I was curious, during the 40s, 50s, was there any type of communication between the cities, between the other groups, the other organizations that were forming? And you said they didn't have the same name, but they were all doing something.
Oh
in
yeah.
Other
Oh
cities.
yeah.
How'd you communicate at that time? Was it just telephone and people coming by?
Yeah, well, yeah, for phone for sure. But
Yeah.
we had an old saying in the
Yep.
community.
Yeah, go ahead.
We had an old saying in the community. I know where you live, so I just stopped by.
Uh-huh.
That was
Okay.
because
It
the
was-
community was a lot tighter then, and so we would do that. Yeah.
And smoke signals too. That's
Yeah. And also, what you showed with Vanguard in 40s is that who were the organizers following at the time? They had to, because that was before Martin Luther King, way before. I mean,
Oh yeah.
what other was there? What was the hot one?
Aunt Jean was a follower of Langston Hughes.
Langston.
And that whole marked that whole Renaissance, Harlem Renaissance. She was part, and
oh Lordy, yes.
she was a writer,
Yes.
and out of that Harlem Renaissance, in terms of musicians and poets and writers, came this whole kind of stimulation about justice, etc.
Yeah, if you don't know the Harlem Renaissance in 1918s, right after World War One, they call it the Harlem, but it went across and it was really strong on the Mount Vernon area of Columbus and other areas on the east side. That the music and all the other aspect became pretty influenced by that. And the literature, a lot of the intellectual, the writers, and a lot of the folks, it was a hotbed at that point. And Columbus was, a lot of people came out of there. I mean, just think on the white side of things, or on the white, the more established thing, Thoreau and all that stuff. People have been thinking about things in Columbus for a long time. So, we can't understuff ourselves. So there we go. Yeah, somebody saying Harlem Renaissance was a creative awakening, especially in the Black community. Yes.
Yeah, that's so.
But thanks, Tim. That was great. I think we're at 8:04. I know that it's a long time for you to be talking, Mr. Dillard, but if you'd like to keep talking, that's great. I know you love your stories and just keep telling them as long as we can.
If anybody's got any questions,
I owe you
I'll
a
try to
coffee.
answer
I owe you a coffee.
No,
I owe you a coffee.
that's right. That's right.
Oh, Suzanne wants to throw in.
Yeah.
She. Oh yeah. What my pitch? This is the February 14th, 2026 Free Press Salon, and we're celebrating the World Black World Month, and with Tom Dillard recanting the history of civil rights movement in Central Ohio, Columbus, Ohio in particular, with Vanguard League and CORE. Go ahead, Suzanne.
Oh, well, for the record, this is Bob.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks.
But Harvey Wasserman talks about the first protest he ever went to at the roller rink on the east side of the city. So his entire career of lifelong activism started on the east side here at that roller rink.
Just to add to that, who was also at the protest and got arrested was Amos Lynch. You ever hear that name?
Yeah, famous journalist.
Amos Lynch was at the Roller Land protest. I got the article from the newspaper. He was a young man, and he got frosty with him, and they arrested him. Took him to jail.
Yeah, I was some of the younger people that were doing some roller skating. I skated a lot, and I used to go. We were violating the code, and we got kicked out many times because I went with mixed crowds. So I didn't even really know what was going on. I thought we were just punks, going in there to rough place up a little bit, and I just not rough it up. That's not the right term. but just to go and have fun. But I was young too. I didn't really know. I was 9, 10 years old. But yeah, that it also is one of the more sad points when things were starting to turn sour in the late '60s. That place had turned pretty rough. And then it's shut down. I was hoping that the not the diocese, but somebody would have taken it over because it was a great community center. It was a real great center. That place was beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you again. I think we're wearing down. We usually at this time we sort of go informal and break off the recording and oh, go ahead, Mr. Zarzano. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Mike Zarzano raised his hand. Can he be unmuted? So right about now, after this, we'll probably go more informal if you'd like to stay around or not, and cut the recording and we can be more vernacular if we want to be in that. But we're now getting a raise of hands, so we may keep it going a little bit longer if that's okay. So go ahead, Mr. Zahn.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to say hello to Bob and Susan. I haven't seen them in several years, so hello, everyone. The situation we're in today is very similar to the way Black America faced it at that time period in the 40s and 50s and 60s. But today, we're all slaves to technocracy. And, the picture in my background is 9/11. That's the Pentagon being exploded. And after that event happened, and this is the point of my question, after that event happened, the Patriot Act was created, which made us all subjects of, the government and virtually took all of our rights. So my question is, how can we create a movement similar to what was done with CORE and the individuals that were highlighted tonight to deliver us all from this slavery of technocracy that was created after 9/11? We really need to focus on this because we're now all sitting in the back of the bus unless you're a millionaire or a billionaire. I'd love to hear comments.
I would say even go back farther than that. I mean, the present day
Yes.
immigration system was set up in 1920s to exclude, and that was the first and foremost. And then you get the National Security Act and all the other stuff that created the CIA, FBI, all the other stuff. So it can
That's
go
right.
into COINTELPRO. We can go deep into a lot of that. Jamie wants to say something, but yeah, Mike, I'll let Mr. Dillerts respond to anything he'd like to, but let's get Jamie's question in as well, and then we'll respond to everything. Yeah, thanks. Did you get it, Jamie? I see you unmuted, but you might not be loud enough for yourself. I don't know. And I see G. Larson wants to get in too, so we'll get you in as well. Jamie, we'll come back to you. G, come on, G. Larson, can you unmic yourself? Go ahead, please.
That was a wonderful presentation on my side. I would love to throw a suggestion out there that, 2 to 5 minute stories, we get them recorded and put them out there on WGRN, maybe even have them ready to go for next year for Black History Month, a story time with Tom, a quick little Columbus historical story, 2 to 5 minutes every day or something throughout the month, or spread it out however. Just a suggestion.
Nice. Okay, Ms. Stiller, you got your job for the next 30 years now.
We'll work on that.
We'll work on that. But that's great. That's a great idea. I really think it's a great idea. And if we can get it
let me just say
There'll be
this.
OSU or CBE or any of those may be good. Yeah. Maybe even if we could just get our own podcast going, that'd be great. And get it on WGRN, WCRS. We can record you and break it up into segments if you're okay with that. Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
There's a lot of stories out there.
Yeah.
A lot
So-
better than mine. A bunch.
What
Can I
about
try again?
Yeah, go, Jamie. Good. And I was
Yeah.
just going to get back to Mike's question real quick, but yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
I saw in one of the slides a reference to the Josephinium and the hypocrisy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if you could explain that.
Ownership of land. Go ahead, Mr. Dillard.
Doesn't come to mind right now, but I don't know.
It was the roller land that Josephinum owned that land.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And it's
Okay.
interesting. Again, how do I say? My mother used to say it all the time: "Speak truth to power." And when those occasions came, I think they met with the people associated who owned the property. I'm sure they did, and confronted them about that in terms of what's going on. And I don't know.
We're still live
I like
You-
that technique.
We're still live on YouTube. Do you want to speak to what happened at the Josephinium? Because you guys just alluded to it. That's not fair. And
We'll
we
do
have
a-
Nevin Siders here from Mexico, from
Yeah, I was going to let
Cancun.
him go. Well, I was going to get to him, but you're asking for clarification of what Josephinum went.
Yeah, what happened there? And Mike, you want to get back to Mike too, so we got a
Yeah.
pile up here.
Correct. I know.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. Let's do a little more research. We'll pull it together.
Yeah, we can get that out. But
Sure.
they were the owners of the roller land area.
Okay. That's fine. That's
and-
good enough.
Yeah, and there were some other things that were happening with the idea of development in that area, which has permanently delayed development along Main Street and that whole area. But now Children's has come and is doing what was thought of a long time ago, but that's what is happening. So there we go. Nevin, come on live, but I want to get to Mike's question because his question about the technocratic side, or however you want to present it. There's always been an issue about that. So do you want to respond to that, Nevin or Tom? I'm not very good at that one because I don't take it too in a way that we can deal with it. Actually, I mean, it's when analog became digital, I didn't say I wanted it to happen. So when beta lost out to VHS, I didn't want that to happen either, but it did. So, I mean, there's things that happen. So there's only things we can do, right? So, but Mike, that's not my response to what your question was. So that's just my perspective on life.
It wasn't just technocracy. It could be just general tyranny that occurred after the Patriot Act was,
Right.
created. So, yeah.
Thank you. Nevin, why don't you chime in a little bit? And then Mr. Dillard, if you can respond to a lot of that, if you'd like to, or if you want to just let it lie, let it lie. So,
Hi, Mark. Thank you.
Nevin,
And my friends, and hello, Mr. Dillard. Your presentation was fantastic. I didn't know hardly any of that. I spent the first half of my life in Columbus. Somebody a few minutes ago asked, I lost track of whom. How can this kind of organizing get going? I responded a few minutes ago with a bit of text. Mr. Dillard, you said something which really grabbed my attention. You did not say, you said the reverse of what I've been trained all my life to say as an activist. Say what in all the groups I've ever been in, they try to organize on a single issue. Say, well, at least we get people to agree on a single issue. Whereas you said just the opposite. You said, well, we were organized in the community, not yet. I'll never forget, I'm sure I'll never forget how you said not yet on a single issue. I think it was about the poultry processing plant when you said it. That's overwhelming. Precisely, all of us who want to change society, we say, well, let's start with the bricks and then build the wall. Let's start small. It's something we can all agree on. The united front and not Thoreau's non-violent civil disobedience. Civil disobedience, which with Gandhi became non-violent civil disobedience, were fantastic. You and you all, you plural, your movements had great successes locally there. Well, there, because I don't live anymore. Thank you and congratulations. And I think you have an awful lot to say on this other part too of strategy versus tactics. Thank you. Sorry, Mark, I didn't answer to everybody else.
No, welcome.
That's all right. You threw in your sense, and welcome, Nevin, and anybody that wants to